The outpost on Vareth 7 wasn't supposed to house children. It especially wasn't supposed to house Kethrian children. Lena Farrow had learned this fact approximately 3 weeks after accepting her assignment as the station's chief xenobiologist. The Kethrians were apex predators from a world where everything with a pulse was either hunter or prey, and they had evolved to be very, very good at the former. 8 feet tall at adulthood, with retractable claws that could shred durasteel, and a bite force that made Earth's ancient tyrannosaurs look gentle, they were the kind of species that made diplomats nervous and military advisors reach for their sidearms, which made the current situation under Lena's bed particularly ironic. She sat at her desk, reviewing tissue samples from the local flora, doing her very best to ignore the chittering whispers emanating from beneath her sleeping platform. The translator implant in her ear caught fragments. "Think she knows?" And, "Shh, Tivy, you're too loud." And, "But I'm hungry." Lena suppressed a smile. The cubs thought they were being so clever. It had started a month ago when Ambassador Krell Voth arrived with his family for the treaty negotiations. The Kethrian diplomat was everything his species' reputation promised: imposing, sharp-eyed, and capable of filleting a person with words as efficiently as with claws. His mate, Shara, was equally formidable. But their cubs, Riku and Tivy, were still young, barely 6 years old in human terms, and for all their developing predatory instincts, they were still just children. Children who had apparently decided that the human xenobiologist was far more interesting than diplomatic proceedings. Lena had first discovered them hiding in her lab storage closet, their luminous yellow eyes peering out from behind equipment crates. She'd pretended not to notice, continuing her work while listening to their excited whispers about the soft skin who doesn't run. In Kethrian culture, prey ran. Prey hid. Prey submitted or died. But humans, Lena had learned, occupied a strange space in their worldview, not quite prey, not quite predator, but something unsettlingly in between. Something that didn't behave as it should. A soft thump came from under the bed. Lena kept her eyes on her datapad, though her peripheral vision caught a flash of silvery fur and one oversized paw quickly retreating back into shadow. The cubs had gotten bolder over the weeks, treating her quarters like their personal adventure zone. They'd graduated from the lab closet to her office, then to her living space, and finally to this, their current favorite hiding spot beneath her bed. The adult Kethrians would be mortified. In their culture, allowing youngsters to stalk you was a sign of either weakness or death wish. Ambassador Krell Voth had warned her during their first meeting. "My offspring may attempt to test you, Dr. Farrow. It is instinct. You must establish dominance, or they will not respect your presence." But Lena had seen something the ambassador hadn't. She'd seen how Riku's ears flattened with anxiety in the crowded diplomatic halls, how Tivy clutched her brother's tail when the grown-ups argued about territorial rights and trade agreements. She'd seen 2 scared children in a strange place, surrounded by adults who spoke in hard voices about hard things, so she'd left her door unlocked. She'd pretended not to hear them sneaking in. She'd made sure there were extra rations in her food storage, the kind with extra protein that growing predators needed. "I dare you to touch her foot," Riku whispered from beneath the bed. "No way! You do it!" Tivy hissed back. Lena shifted her foot slightly, letting it dangle closer to the edge of the bed. She heard a sharp intake of breath from below, followed by absolute silence. The kind of silence that came from 2 young predators holding perfectly still, convinced they'd been discovered. She continued reading, her expression neutral. A moment later, she felt the gentlest touch against her ankle, not claws, but the soft pads of a paw, barely making contact. Then another touch from the other side. Both cubs, working up their courage together. In Kethrian culture, this was an enormous transgression. Cubs did not touch adults outside their family unit. They especially did not touch potential prey. But Lena understood what the ambassador and the other adults couldn't. These weren't predatory gestures. These were trust gestures. These were children reaching out to see if the strange, soft skin would hurt them. She didn't move. She just kept reading, letting them explore. "She doesn't mind," Tivy breathed, wonder in her voice. "Told you," Riku replied, smug and relieved in equal measure. "Humans are weird." The door chime sounded. Both cubs went silent again, pressing themselves deeper under the bed. "Come in," Lena called. Ambassador Krell Voth entered, his massive frame filling the doorway. His nostrils flared as he scanned the room, Predator's eyes cataloging everything in an instant. "Dr. Farrow, I apologize for the intrusion. I am looking for my offspring. They were supposed to remain in our quarters during the afternoon session, but they have wandered." Lena met his gaze steadily. In Kethrian culture, eye contact was challenge. In human culture, it was honesty. She let him interpret it however he needed to. "I haven't seen them in the corridors, Ambassador," she said truthfully. Krell Voth's eyes narrowed slightly, his head tilted, nostrils flaring again. He absolutely knew they were here. His species could track scent across kilometers. But something in Lena's calm demeanor, in her unwavering gaze, gave him pause. "Dr. Farrow," he said slowly, "you understand that Kethrian cubs can be dangerous, even unintentionally." "I understand that cubs are cubs, Ambassador, regardless of species." A long moment of silence stretched between them. Then, impossibly, the corner of Krell Voth's mouth twitched the Kethrian equivalent of a smile. "Perhaps," he said softly, "that is why the treaty negotiations continue to progress, because humans understand things we sometimes forget." He inclined his head, a gesture of respect. "When you happen to see my offspring, please inform them that dinner is in 1 hour, and that their mother is most displeased with their adventuring." "Of course, Ambassador." After he left, Lena waited exactly 30 seconds before speaking to the seemingly empty room. "You two heard him. Dinner in an hour. Don't make your mother worry." 2 sets of luminous eyes appeared at the edge of the bed, followed by 2 silvery furred faces wearing expressions of mixed guilt and gratitude. "You didn't tell," Riku said, his voice small. "Of course not," Lena replied, turning back to her datapad. "What kind of friend would I be?" The cubs scrambled out and darted toward the door, but Tivy paused in the doorway, looking back. "Tomorrow?" she asked hopefully. Lena pretended to consider it, then nodded once. "Tomorrow. But try to be quieter. You're not as stealthy as you think." The excited chittering that followed them down the corridor made Lena smile. 3 weeks later, when the treaty was signed and the Kethrian delegation prepared to leave, Ambassador Krell Voth presented Lena with a gift. A claw-carved pendant bearing the symbol of the Kethrian family unit. "You showed my children something our people often forget," he said quietly. "That strength is not only in claws and fangs, but in patience and kindness. They speak of you as their soft-skin guardian. There is no higher honor in our culture than to be trusted with the young." As their ship departed, Lena stood at the viewport, touching the pendant. In the distance, she could just make out 2 small faces pressed against a window, waving frantically. She waved back, wondering if they understood yet that the best predators were the ones who knew when not to hunt, and the bravest humans were the ones who left their doors open, even when they knew what hid in the shadows, especially when they knew